The Discovery. Commander Wyatt Voss stood at the observation deck of the UES Horizon, his weathered face reflected in the reinforced plasma glass as he stared into the endless void of space. The distant stars seemed to mock him, twinkling like knowing eyes in the darkness. 20 years of deep space exploration, and he'd never encountered anything like the signal they'd been tracking for the past 3 months. "Commander," Lieutenant Alana Drake's voice cut through his contemplation. "The analysis team has completed their latest report on the signal's signature." Wyatt turned, his steel-gray eyes meeting Drake's determined gaze. She'd been his second-in-command for 5 years now, and he trusted her more than anyone else on the ship. But even she couldn't hide the uncertainty in her voice. "Let's hear it," he said, his tone measured and calm despite the tension coursing through his body. Drake activated her holodisplay, and a complex wave pattern materialized in the air between them. "The signal structure is unlike anything in our database. It's not random noise, and it's definitely not natural. The pattern suggests intelligence." "Intelligence," Wyatt repeated, testing the weight of the word. "Alien? That's our best guess. The frequency modulation is far too precise to be anything else. But here's where it gets interesting." Drake manipulated the hologram, zooming in on a particular section. "The signal's age. Based on the decay pattern and the way it's traveled through space, our scientists estimate it's at least 50,000 years old." Wyatt's expression remained neutral, but his mind raced with implications. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago. The idea of a civilization capable of broadcasting such a signal 50,000 years ago was staggering. "Location?" he asked, already knowing the answer would complicate matters further. Drake's expression tightened. "The Void Sector. Of course it would be there." The Void Sector was a region of space that had earned its ominous name. Ships that ventured too deep into its boundaries had a habit of disappearing. The few that returned often carried crews driven mad by what they'd encountered. The United Earth government had declared it off-limits to civilian vessels decades ago. "How far in?" "About 30 light-years past the warning beacons." Drake paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Sir, if we pursue this, we'll be violating at least 6 different UEG directives," Wyatt finished for her. "I'm aware." He turned back to the observation window, his reflection overlaying the distant stars. The decision weighing on his shoulders wasn't just about regulations or potential consequences. Something about this signal pulled at him, like a half-remembered dream trying to surface. "Assemble the senior staff," he said finally. "And contact Dr. Isaac Chen. We'll need his expertise if we're going to understand what we're dealing with." Drake nodded and moved to leave, but Wyatt's voice stopped her. "And Alana? This stays between us for now. No communications with command until we know more." She hesitated for a moment before responding. "Understood, sir." After she left, Wyatt remained at the window, his mind churning with possibilities. He'd built his career on following instincts that others might call reckless, but this felt different. The signal wasn't just calling to humanity, it felt like it was calling to him specifically. An hour later, the senior staff gathered in the Horizon's war room. The holographic display dominated the center of the table, showing a 3-dimensional map of the Void Sector. Dr. Isaac Chen, the ship's chief scientist, manipulated the display with practiced gestures, highlighting the signal's projected origin point. "The signal appears to be coming from a region of space that shows unusual gravitational distortions," Chen explained, his thin fingers tracing the anomalous patterns. "These distortions might explain why previous expeditions into the Void Sector have had such difficulty with navigation." Security Chief Elena Martinez leaned forward, her dark eyes narrowing as she studied the map. "Those distortions could tear the ship apart if we're not careful. The Horizon's good, but she wasn't built for this kind of environment. Which is why we'll need to modify our shields," Chen replied, a hint of excitement creeping into his usually reserved voice. I've been working on some theoretical applications of quantum field manipulation that could help us navigate the distortions. Theoretical being the key word, Martinez countered. We'd be risking the lives of everyone on board based on untested science. Wyatt let them debate, watching the interplay of opinions and concerns. His crew was the best in the fleet, each chosen for their expertise and ability to think beyond conventional boundaries. But what he was about to propose would test their loyalty to its limits. Dr. Chen, he interrupted the ongoing discussion, how long would it take to implement these shield modifications? The scientist blinked, clearly surprised by the direct question. With the resources available on the horizon, perhaps 3 days. But Commander, the testing alone would require. We don't have time for extended testing, Wyatt cut him off. The signal's getting stronger, which means whatever's generating it is still active after all these millennia. We need to move now. The room fell silent as the implications of his words sank in. Drake exchanged worried glances with Martinez, while Chen's expression shifted between concern and barely contained excitement. Commander, Drake spoke up, her voice carefully neutral, are you suggesting we proceed without authorization from command? Wyatt stood, placing his hands on the table as he addressed his senior staff. What I'm suggesting is that we're facing a discovery that could rewrite human history. The UEG's restrictions on the void sector exist for good reasons, but they're based on limited information and fear of the unknown. We have an opportunity here to understand what's really out there. He paused, making eye contact with each person around the table. I won't order anyone to participate in this mission. If we proceed, it will be with a volunteer crew only. Those who wish to remain behind will be transferred to the outpost station at the sector boundary with full commendations. Martinez shook her head, a wry smile crossing her face. You know we're all going to volunteer, right? None of us would let you do this alone. Speak for yourself, Chen muttered, but his eyes gleamed with barely contained excitement. Though I must admit, the chance to study these phenomena firsthand is compelling. Drake remained silent, her expression thoughtful. Wyatt knew she would follow him, she always had, but her reservations were valid. They all were. 3 days, Wyatt announced. Dr. Chen, you have that long to implement your shield modifications. Lieutenant Drake, prepare a crew rotation that accounts for volunteers only. Chief Martinez, I want a full security assessment of what we might encounter based on previous void sector reports. As the senior staff filed out, Drake lingered behind. Sir, there's something else you should know about the signal. Wyatt raised an eyebrow, waiting. During our latest analysis, we detected what appears to be a pattern within the pattern. It's subtle, but... She hesitated. It resembles brain wave activity. Specifically, human brain wave activity during REM sleep. A chill ran down Wyatt's spine, though he kept his expression neutral. Meaning? Meaning whatever sent this signal 50,000 years ago, might have known we'd be listening. The implication hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and danger. Wyatt dismissed Drake with a nod, then returned to the holographic display. He studied the swirling patterns of the void sector, trying to ignore the growing sensation that something out there wasn't just waiting to be discovered, it was waiting specifically for him. In his quarters that night, Wyatt dreamed of black ships moving through ancient skies, their surfaces rippling like liquid glass. He dreamed of cities that defied physics, of technologies that blurred the line between machine and organism. And through it all, a voice whispered in a language he shouldn't understand but somehow did. Come find us, Waymaker. The key awaits. When he woke, the words still echoed in his mind, and he knew with absolute certainty that they were about to uncover something that would change humanity forever. Whether that change would be for better or worse remained to be seen. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. To Wyatt's surprise and gratification, not a single crew member requested transfer. They all seemed to share a collective sense that they were part of something momentous, something bigger than regulations or personal safety. Dr. Chen worked tirelessly on the shield modifications, barely sleeping as he integrated his theoretical designs into the Horizon systems. Drake coordinated with the navigation team, plotting the safest possible course through the gravitational distortions. Martinez drilled the security teams relentlessly, preparing them for any conceivable threat they might encounter. On the morning of their departure, Wyatt stood once again at the observation deck. The warning beacons marking the boundary of the void sector blinked in the distance, their red lights a final warning against what they were about to attempt. "All departments report ready, Commander," Drake announced from behind him. "We can proceed on your order." Wyatt nodded, still staring at the beacons. "Send one final message to command. Tell them." He paused, considering his words carefully. "Tell them we've detected an anomaly that requires investigation, and that we'll maintain communication as long as possible." A bit of an understatement, Drake commented dryly. "Sometimes the best way to hide the truth is to tell part of it," Wyatt replied. "Set course for the signal's origin. Maximum sustainable speed." As the Horizon's engines hummed to life, Wyatt felt a familiar sensation of anticipation mixed with dread. But underneath those expected emotions was something new, a growing certainty that whatever they found in the void sector would be beyond anything they could imagine. The warning beacons fell behind them, and the Horizon plunged into the unknown, carrying its crew toward a destiny 50,000 years in the making. In his mind, Wyatt heard the whispered words from his dream once more. "Come find us, Waymaker. The key awaits." And so began the journey that would change everything. Into the void. The void sector lived up to its reputation within hours of their crossing. Reality seemed to bend and twist around the horizon, creating visual distortions that made even the most seasoned crew members queasy. The stars themselves appeared to move in ways that defied astronomical laws, clustering in impossible patterns before dispersing like scattered mercury. Dr. Chen's modified shields held, but the strain on the systems was evident. The quantum field manipulators hummed at frequencies that made teeth ache and dreams turn strange. Those who could sleep reported increasingly bizarre visions, crystalline cities floating in violet skies, beings of pure light conducting incomprehensible experiments, and always, the whisper of voices speaking in languages that shouldn't make sense but somehow did. "Shield integrity at 68%, Chen reported, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic displays. Dark circles under his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. "The gravitational distortions are intensifying, but the pattern suggests they're not random. There's intelligence in their distribution." Wyatt stood behind him in the science lab, watching the data stream across the screens. "Explain." "Look here," Chen highlighted a particular set of readings. "The distortions form a kind of corridor through space. If we follow it, we can maintain shield integrity. Deviate, and..." He gestured to a simulation showing the ship being torn apart by gravitational forces. "A path," Wyatt murmured. "They left us a path." "Who left us a path?" Drake asked, entering the lab. She carried a tablet displaying the latest crew reports. "Half the crew is reporting severe headaches and unusual dreams. Medical's getting concerned about the psychological effects of prolonged exposure to whatever's out here." Wyatt turned to her. "What kind of dreams?" Drake consulted her tablet. "Varies by individual, but there are common themes. Ancient technologies, impossible architectures, and..." She hesitated. "Many report hearing voices speaking in unknown languages that they somehow understand." Chen straightened in his chair. "That's impossible. Different crew members couldn't share such specific dream elements unless something or someone is broadcasting directly into our minds," Wyatt finished. He'd been having the dreams too, more vivid and frequent than before they entered the void sector. The whispers had grown clearer, more insistent. "Commander," Drake's voice was tight with concern, "if something's affecting our minds, we need to turn back. The risk to the crew is calculated and necessary," Wyatt cut her off. "We're too close now." Before Drake could argue further, the ship's emergency alerts blared to life. Martinez's voice came over the comm, bridge to Commander Voss. "Sir, you need to see this." When they reached the bridge, the view through the main screen made them all stop short. Ahead of them, space itself seemed to tear open, revealing what looked like a massive structure floating in the void. Its surface was black as night, seeming to absorb both light and matter around it. The structure's geometry shifted and changed as they watched, as if it couldn't quite decide what shape it wanted to be. "Full stop," Wyatt ordered. "Analysis?" Chen was already at his station, running scans. It's incredible. The structure appears to be both organic and mechanical, utilizing principles of engineering that violate several laws of physics. And sir, it's the source of our signal. Life signs? Drake asked. Nothing conventional, but there are energy patterns throughout the structure that resemble neural activity. It's as if the entire thing is alive, or at least conscious on some level. Wyatt felt a familiar pull, stronger now than ever before. The whispers in his mind had become a chorus, calling him forward. He knew, with inexplicable certainty, that this was only the beginning. "Prepare a boarding team," he announced. "Full environmental suits and weapons, but set to non-lethal only. We don't want to damage anything we might find in there." "Sir," Martinez stepped forward, her expression grave. "Standard protocol for first contact situations requires." "This isn't a first contact situation," Wyatt interrupted. "They've been waiting for us." "For me." The words slipped out before he could stop them, and he saw the concerned looks exchanged between his officers. Drake opened her mouth to speak, but before she could, the structure ahead of them pulsed with energy. A beam of light shot out, scanning the horizon from bow to stern. Suddenly, every screen and holographic display on the bridge filled with symbols, complex geometric patterns that shifted and changed like living things. Chen gasped as he studied them. These are mathematical equations, but they're far beyond anything we've developed. They're describing concepts that our science hasn't even theorized yet. Can you decode them?" Wyatt asked, though he already knew the answer. The symbols made perfect sense to him, their meaning clear as day in his mind. "It would take years just to understand the basic principles," Chen admitted. "Whoever built this was operating on a level of science that makes our most advanced technology look primitive." Wyatt stepped closer to the main screen, his eyes fixed on the shifting symbols. "They're not just equations. They're instructions. An invitation." Drake grabbed his arm. "Commander, you can't seriously be considering." "Prepare the boarding team," he repeated, his voice leaving no room for argument. "I'll lead it myself." "At least let me run a full security sweep first," Martinez pleaded. "We have no idea what's waiting for us in there." But Wyatt knew exactly what was waiting. The dreams had shown him, the curved corridors that seemed to breathe, the walls that pulsed with living light, and at the center of it all, something ancient and powerful that had called across 50,000 years of space and time to reach him. "1 hour," he conceded. "Run your scans, Chief Martinez." "But we're going in no matter what they show." The hour passed with agonizing slowness. Martinez's security teams scanned every frequency they could think of, while Chen continued to study the mathematical patterns that still danced across their screens. Drake coordinated the preparation of the boarding team, selecting the most experienced crew members for what could be humanity's most significant expedition. Finally, they were ready. The boarding team assembled in the launch bay: Wyatt, Drake, Martinez, Chen, and 3 additional security specialists. Their environmental suits were the latest UEG design, capable of withstanding extreme conditions and providing up to 72 hours of life support. As they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the alien structure, Drake pulled Wyatt aside. "Sir, I need to ask one more time, are you certain about this?" Wyatt looked at her, seeing the genuine concern in her eyes. "No," he admitted. "But I'm certain that if we don't do this, humanity will miss its chance to understand something profound about the universe and our place in it." The shuttle journey was brief but intense. As they approached the structure, its surface seemed to ripple and shift, creating an opening that perfectly matched the dimensions of their craft. The landing was automated, guided by unseen forces that brought them smoothly into what appeared to be a docking bay. "Atmosphere is present," Chen reported, checking his instruments. "Composition is, surprisingly Earth-like, though there are trace elements I've never seen before. Temperature is stable at 20 degrees Celsius. Almost as if it was prepared for us," Martinez muttered, checking her weapon for the third time. They exited the shuttle in formation, lights from their suits illuminating the vast chamber. The walls were covered in the same shifting symbols they'd seen on their screens, but here they seemed more alive, pulsing with an inner light that responded to their presence. "Look at this," Chen breathed, running his scanner over the nearest wall. The material appears to be both organic and synthetic, constantly rebuilding itself at the molecular level. It's like the entire structure is one massive living organism. Wyatt felt the pull stronger than ever now, an irresistible urge drawing him deeper into the structure. The whispers in his mind had become clearer, forming words and images that seemed to map out their path. "This way," he said with certainty, leading them down a corridor that curved gently to the left. "Commander," Martinez called from behind him, "my motion sensors are picking up something. I can't get a clear reading, but we're not alone in here." The team moved cautiously through the corridors, each step taking them deeper into the mystery. The walls continued to pulse with that strange inner light, and occasionally they would pass through chambers filled with what appeared to be dormant machinery of incomprehensible purpose. After what felt like hours but could have been minutes, they reached what Wyatt somehow knew was their destination. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in darkness above them. In the center, suspended in mid-air, was a sphere of absolute blackness, about 2 meters in diameter. "That's it," Wyatt whispered. "That's what they wanted us to find." The sphere seemed to respond to his voice, its surface rippling like liquid mercury. Symbols began to appear on its surface, different from the mathematical patterns they'd seen before. These were older, more primal somehow. "Sir," Drake's voice was urgent. "The energy readings from that thing are off the charts. We should back off, run some tests before." But Wyatt was already moving forward, drawn by an irresistible force. As he approached the sphere, memories that weren't his own flooded his mind, a civilization that had reached heights humanity could barely imagine, a discovery that changed everything, and a choice that had to be made. The whispers became a single clear voice: "The key awaits, Waymaker. Take it. Understand. Become." Wyatt reached out, his gloved hand moving toward the sphere's surface. Behind him, he could hear his team shouting warnings, but they seemed distant, unimportant. His fingers touched the blackness, and the universe changed. The awakening. The moment Wyatt's hand made contact with the sphere, reality fractured. Time and space bent around him, and his consciousness expanded beyond the confines of his physical form. In an instant that felt like eternity, he saw everything. The civilization that had built this place, beings of pure energy and thought who had transcended the need for physical form. Their great discovery: the universe was not just alive, but conscious, and they had found a way to tap into its fundamental awareness. The sphere was not just a repository of knowledge, but a key to accessing the cosmic consciousness itself. But with that discovery came a terrible truth. The universe was dying, slowly but inevitably, and with its death would come the end of all consciousness, all possibility. The beings had found a solution, but it required something they no longer possessed: the chaotic, adaptable nature of younger species. They needed humanity, needed Wyatt specifically, though he couldn't yet understand why. The vision shattered, and Wyatt found himself back in his body, gasping inside his environmental suit. The sphere had changed, its surface now swirling with colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. "Commander." Drake's voice seemed to come from very far away. Commander Voss, can you hear me? He turned to face his team, knowing he must look as shaken as he felt. I'm here. I understand now. Understand what? Chin demanded, his scanner whirring as he tried to make sense of the energy patterns emanating from the sphere. The readings, this is impossible. The sphere is generating more energy than a small star, but it's all contained somehow, folded in on itself. It's not generating energy, Wyatt said, his voice distant as he processed what he'd learned. It's channeling it. From everywhere. From the universe itself. Martinez stepped forward, her weapon still raised. Sir, you're not making sense. We need to get you back to the ship, run some tests. No. The word came out sharper than he intended. We don't have time. They showed me, everything is connected. The universe, consciousness, reality itself. And it's all dying. Who showed you? Drake asked, her concern evident even through her helmet visor. Before Wyatt could answer, the chamber around them began to transform. The walls became transparent, revealing the vast machinery that lay beyond, technology that seemed to operate on principles that defied physics as humanity understood it. Through the newly transparent walls, they could see energy patterns flowing like rivers of light, all converging on the sphere. They called themselves the architects, Wyatt explained, the knowledge flowing through him now like a river. They evolved beyond physical form billions of years ago, becoming beings of pure consciousness. But in doing so, they lost something essential, the ability to change, to adapt. When they discovered the universe was dying, they knew they needed help from a younger species. Help with what? Chen asked, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. To save everything. Wyatt turned back to the sphere. This facility, this ship, it's not just a library or a repository. It's a seed. A way to rewrite the fundamental laws of reality itself, to prevent the heat death of the universe. But it needs chaos. Unpredictability. Human consciousness. Drake moved closer to him, her hand hovering near her weapon. Commander, listen to yourself. This is impossible. Whatever that sphere did to you. It showed me the truth, Wyatt interrupted. And now I need to show all of you. Before anyone could stop him, he reached out again, not just touching the sphere but pressing both hands against its surface. Energy surged through him, and suddenly everyone in the chamber was connected, their minds linked through the sphere's power. They saw what he had seen, the rise and fall of the architects, their desperate plan to save existence itself, the careful manipulation of human evolution to create beings capable of interfacing with their technology. They saw why Wyatt had been chosen, his unique neural patterns, shaped by generations of subtle genetic guidance, made him the perfect bridge between human consciousness and the architect's technology. When the vision ended, the team stood in stunned silence. Chen was the first to speak, his voice trembling with awe. The implications, this changes everything we thought we knew about physics, about consciousness, about the nature of reality itself. It's too much power, Martinez warned, though her weapon had lowered. No one should have this kind of knowledge, this kind of capability. It's not about power, Wyatt said softly. It's about responsibility. The architects didn't choose humanity because we're perfect, they chose us because we're not. Our chaos, our unpredictability, our ability to adapt and change, that's what they lost, and that's what's needed to save everything. Drake stepped forward, removing her helmet to look Wyatt directly in the eyes. What exactly are you saying we need to do? The sphere is just the beginning, Wyatt explained. There are others, scattered across the galaxy. Together, they form a network that can rewrite the fundamental constants of the universe, preventing its eventual heat death. But they need to be activated, synchronized, and controlled by consciousness that still exists within physical form. You're talking about a mission that could take years, decades even, Drake said. Yes. Wyatt looked at each member of his team. And I won't do it alone. The architects knew that too. It's why they guided not just my evolution, but all of yours. Everyone on the horizon was chosen, shaped over generations to be part of this. The chamber hummed with energy as the truth of his words resonated through the structure. The sphere pulsed in sync with their heartbeats, connecting them all to something vast and ancient and impossibly important. If we do this, Martinez said slowly, we'll be violating every regulation in the book. We'll be labeled traitors, deserters. We'll be saving existence itself, Chen countered, his eyes bright with the possibilities. The scientific knowledge alone. It's not a decision I can make for any of you, Wyatt said. But I know what I have to do. The architects showed me that too. If we don't act, if we don't complete their plan, the universe will reach its end state in less than 10,000 years. Everything will end, not just humanity, but all consciousness, all possibility, everything that ever was or could be. Drake looked at the sphere, then back at Wyatt. How do we even begin? Wyatt smiled, feeling the knowledge flow through him. We start by waking up the ship. This facility isn't just a storage site, it's a vessel, one capable of traveling in ways we can barely comprehend. And it's been waiting for us. For me. As if in response to his words, the chamber began to transform again. The walls shifted, revealing control interfaces that seemed designed specifically for human use. The sphere's energy pulsed outward, beginning to wake systems that had lain dormant for 50,000 years. First, Wyatt said, we need to merge this ship with the horizon. The architects designed it to be compatible with human technology, to serve as a bridge between their science and ours. Then we gather the crew, all of them will have a choice to make. And then we save the universe, Chen finished, already moving to study the nearest control interface. No, Wyatt corrected quietly. Then we give the universe a chance to save itself. The architects understood finally that control and certainty were the enemy of life. What we're going to do is introduce chaos into the equation, human chaos. After that, whatever happens will be up to the universe itself. The sphere pulsed one final time, and the ship around them truly began to wake up. The adventure that would reshape reality itself was about to begin, and as Wyatt looked at his team, at the people who would help him change everything, he felt something he hadn't expected, hope. The transformation. The merging of the horizon with the ancient vessel defied everything humanity thought they knew about engineering. As Wyatt directed the process, guided by the knowledge flowing through him from the sphere, the two ships began to transform. The horizon's conventional metal hull flowered open like a massive geometric blossom, while the alien vessel's organic mechanical surfaces reached out with tentacles of living metal. Dr. Chen stood at a newly formed control interface, his expression a mixture of wonder and scientific fascination. The molecular reconstruction is happening at a quantum level, he reported, watching the readings scroll past. It's not just combining the ships, it's rewriting the fundamental structure of both vessels to create something entirely new. A hybrid, Drake observed, watching through the massive viewing portal as the transformation continued. Like us. She wasn't just referring to the ships. In the 3 days since their contact with the sphere, the entire crew had begun to change. It started subtly, enhanced intuition, shared dreams, the ability to sense each other's thoughts and emotions. But as the ships merged, so did their consciousness, guided by the ancient technologies of the architects. The crew is handling the changes better than expected, Martinez reported, her security teams monitoring the integration process. No panic, no resistance. It's almost as if they were made for this, Wyatt finished. Because they were. We all were. The knowledge from the sphere had revealed the truth, humanity's evolution had been subtly guided for millennia, creating individuals who could serve as bridges between organic consciousness and the architect's technology. The crew of the Horizon represented the culmination of that project, humans capable of ascending to a new form of existence while maintaining their essential humanity. But not everyone outside the ship would understand. "Sir," Drake's voice was urgent. "We're picking up approaching vessels. UEG Defense Fleet signatures. They must have tracked us into the void sector." Wyatt moved to the main control nexus, his mind connecting seamlessly with the ship's enhanced sensors. 5 UEG warships, heavily armed and moving into attack formation. They had expected this. The UEG would never allow something this powerful to exist outside their control. "They're charging weapons," Martinez warned. "Orders." Wyatt closed his eyes, feeling the vast power now at his disposal. He could disable the UEG ships with a thought, rewrite their systems, or simply disappear into dimensions they couldn't access. But that wasn't the way. "Open a channel," he commanded. "All frequencies." The communication system responded instantly, far more sophisticated than anything humanity had developed. Wyatt spoke, his voice reaching not just the UEG ship's communication systems but the minds of their crews directly. "This is Commander Wyatt Voss. What we have discovered here is beyond war, beyond politics, beyond the limited thinking that divides humanity. We offer you a choice: join us. See what we have seen. Understand what we have understood. Or turn back, knowing that you tried to stand in the way of humanity's next great leap forward." The response was immediate and predictable. "Commander Voss, you are ordered to power down your vessel and prepare for boarding. This technology has been deemed a threat to human security. Comply immediately or we will open fire." Wyatt smiled sadly. "Security," he mused. "That's always been humanity's weakness, the desire to control, to contain, to dominate what we don't understand. The architects evolved beyond that. And now, so must we." He reached out with his enhanced consciousness, touching the minds of the UEG ship's crews. Not to control, but to share, to show them what he had seen in the sphere, what humanity could become. The effect was electric. Across the UEG fleet, crews stood transfixed as understanding flooded their minds. The universe's vast consciousness, the approaching death of everything, and the possibility of salvation through human evolution. "They're powering down weapons," Martinez reported, a note of relief in her voice. "Some of them will join us," Wyatt said with certainty. "Others will return to Earth, spreading what they've learned. It's all part of the pattern. Humanity needs to come to this willingly, or not at all." As if in response to his words, the ship's transformation accelerated. The merger completed in a burst of impossible energy, creating a vessel unlike anything that had ever existed, part human technology, part architect biotechnology, and something entirely new. "The assembly is complete," Chen announced, studying the final readings. "All systems are integrated and functioning at levels that, well, that shouldn't be possible according to any physics we understood a week ago." Wyatt felt the ship's consciousness merge with his own, a vast and ancient awareness now filtered through human perception. The knowledge of what came next flowed through him, the locations of the other spheres, the sequences needed to prevent the universe's death, the role humanity would play in it all. "Plot a course," he ordered, though the concept of traditional space travel seemed almost quaint now. "We have 8 more spheres to locate and activate. Each one will bring us closer to the final transformation." "And what happens then?" Drake asked, voicing the question they all carried. "What do we become?" Wyatt turned to his crew, his family now, linked by something deeper than blood or loyalty. "We become what we were always meant to be, the bridge between what is and what could be. The architects created the spheres, but they couldn't use them. They needed us, our chaos, our creativity, our capacity for change." The ship responded to his thoughts, its new hybrid systems coming alive with possibilities. Around them, space itself seemed to bend and flex, revealing paths between the stars that no human had ever seen. "We are the key," Wyatt continued. "Not just to saving the universe, but to transforming it. The architects showed us the door. Now we choose how to walk through it." As the ship prepared to make its first impossible jump through transformed space, Wyatt felt the weight of destiny settling around them. They were no longer just explorers or military officers, they were the harbingers of humanity's next evolutionary leap, the guardians of existence itself. The adventure was just beginning, and the universe held its breath to see what they would become. The final evolution. 7 spheres activated, 7 transformations complete. The journey had taken them across the galaxy and beyond, each activation changing not just the crew but the very fabric of reality around them. Now, after what felt like both moments and eternities, they approached the final sphere. The ship, no longer recognizable as either human or architect technology, moved through dimensions that defied description. Its crew had evolved too, their consciousness expanded beyond anything their former selves could have comprehended. Yet somehow, through all the changes, they had maintained their essential humanity, their capacity for love, fear, hope, and wonder. The final coordinates are locked, Drake announced, her voice resonating both physically and mentally through the ship's living corridors. Like all of them, she had changed. Her consciousness could now perceive multiple realities simultaneously, yet she chose to maintain human form, to anchor herself in the physical world. Wyatt stood at the heart of the ship, where the first sphere they discovered now pulsed in harmony with the ship's hybrid systems. The knowledge it had given him had proven both a blessing and a burden. He understood now why the architects had chosen humanity, why they had spent millennia guiding their evolution. It wasn't just about saving the universe, it was about transforming it into something entirely new. Status report, he commanded, though the words were almost superfluous now. The crew's linked consciousness meant he already knew everything they did. The changes we initiated with the previous spheres are cascading through reality, Chen reported, his consciousness simultaneously processing data across multiple dimensional planes. The fundamental constants are shifting, creating new possibilities, new forms of existence. But it's not enough, not without the final sphere. The universe is still dying, Martinez added, her security consciousness now expanded to monitor threats across multiple realities. Just, differently. Wyatt nodded. The architect's plan was more complex than any of them had initially understood. Each sphere activation had introduced new variables into reality's equation, creating pockets of altered spacetime where different laws of physics applied. But without the final activation, these changes would eventually collapse, leading to an even more catastrophic end to existence. "We're being followed," Drake reported suddenly. "UEG ships, the ones that refused our invitation. They've somehow tracked us through the dimensional barriers." Wyatt extended his consciousness, sensing the pursuing vessels. They represented the part of humanity that feared change, that clung to the familiar even in the face of extinction. He couldn't blame them, he had been like them once, bound by rules and regulations, unable to see the larger pattern. "Let them come," he said. "They need to witness this." The ship emerged from its dimensional transit near a dying star, a white dwarf in its final stages of existence. Orbiting it was a structure that dwarfed even their transformed vessel, a massive installation that seemed to be made of crystallized time itself. The architect's final refuge, Chen breathed, his scientific consciousness overwhelmed by the scale of what they were seeing. "Where they waited for us to evolve, to become ready." As they approached the installation, the final sphere began to reveal itself, not suspended in space like the others, but embedded in the very heart of the dying star. Getting to it would require them to travel through the star's core, through conditions that would have instantly destroyed their original human forms. "The pursuing ships are entering the system," Martinez reported. "They're charging weapons." "No more running," Wyatt decided. "No more hiding what we've become. Open a channel to all ships, all frequencies, all realities." The ship's communication systems responded, broadcasting his words across dimensions. "This is Commander Wyatt Voss to all pursuing vessels. What you're about to witness is not an end, but a beginning. The universe is dying, not just our universe, but all universes, all possibilities. What we do here today will either save everything or transform it into something entirely new. You can't stop this, but you can be part of it. The choice is yours." Without waiting for their response, Wyatt initiated the final approach. The ship's hybrid systems engaged, creating a bubble of altered reality around them that would allow them to survive the star's interior. As they descended into the stellar plasma, the pursuing ships held position, their crews watching in awe and terror. "The sphere is responding to our presence," Chen reported as they penetrated deeper into the star. It's beautiful." The final sphere was unlike the others. Where they had been black, this one shone with impossible colors. Where they had contained knowledge, this one contained pure possibility, the seeds of a new form of existence. "All spheres are linked," Drake announced. "The network is complete." Wyatt reached out, not just with his hand but with his entire transformed consciousness. As he touched the sphere, he felt the presence of the architects, not as the godlike beings they had imagined, but as consciousness that had evolved too far, too fast, losing touch with the chaos that gave reality its meaning. In that moment of contact, everything became clear. The spheres weren't just tools to prevent the universe's death, they were a way to rewrite the very nature of existence, to create a reality where consciousness and chaos could coexist in perfect balance. But it required something the architects had lost: humanity's capacity for illogical, impossible hope. "It's time," Wyatt said to his crew, his family across realities. "Are you ready?" Their combined consciousness answered as one. They had come too far, changed too much, to turn back now. Through their linked awareness, Wyatt could feel the pursuing ship's crews watching, beginning to understand, some of them already reaching out to join the transformation. With a thought that resonated across dimensions, Wyatt activated the final sphere. Energy cascaded through the network, reality rippling like water disturbed by a stone. The dying star around them didn't explode, it transformed, becoming something that had never existed before, a nexus of pure possibility. The change spread outward at impossible speeds, touching every corner of existence. Physics itself rewrote its laws, consciousness expanded beyond its boundaries, and the universe evolved. In the aftermath, floating in a reality that now danced with new forms of life and consciousness, Wyatt looked at what they had become. Not gods, not architects, but something uniquely human, beings who could bridge the gap between order and chaos, between consciousness and possibility. "What now?" Drake asked, her voice echoing across multiple planes of existence. Wyatt smiled, feeling the pulse of the transformed universe around them. "Now we explore. Now we learn. Now we become what we were always meant to be, the storytellers of a new reality." The ship, no longer bound by traditional physics, prepared to venture into the transformed cosmos. Around them, the pursuing ships had become part of the change, their crews awakening to new forms of existence. And somewhere, in dimensions beyond human comprehension, the consciousness of the architects watched with satisfaction as their grand experiment reached its true conclusion. They had not saved the universe, they had given it the tools to save itself, to perpetually reinvent itself through the chaos and creativity that only human consciousness could provide. It was not an ending, but a beginning, written in the language of transformed reality in human dreams. And in the heart of it all, Wyatt and his crew prepared for their next great adventure, knowing that the true journey was just beginning.